In this video, we shall be looking at the canvas setting and layers in Photoshop. Once you have Photoshop open, the first thing it prompts you is the creation of canvas size, just as we have here. I have all of these thumbnail, they are called thumbnail, simply because I've been using Photoshop before now. But what if you've not, yours, this place will be a little bit different. But the most important thing is you come at the left hand side here, that's to find my mouse, click the create new. So this allows you to open already made file, like that's already made PDFs, or we create new. So once we click here, once we click the create new, it brings up this box for us to choose our canvas size. So all of these are my recent preset I've used. But once you come here, find in photos, different in print. If you are doing print, there's the letter size and all of that. But majorly, the majority of you, I believe, will be designing for web, will be designing for social media, especially for social media. So with that, I've just streamlined, the discussion of canvas size to just three major canvas size, which we need to be creating here. Three major canvas size, and they are landscape. One is either landscape, portrait, or one by one. That is, what do I mean by one by one? Okay, let's go. The very good popular landscape canvas size is 1920 by 1080, which we normally find. You can find that in the video session. 1920 by 1080, you find it here, right? Though it says video, but you can still use the idea is full HD, so that your design will be on full HD. That's just the idea. But however, this 1920 by 1080, as you can see here, is showing the orientation is landscape, right? So it's either you do this, and this landscape is very good for YouTube, very much good for YouTube and Twitter. Yes, for Twitter. However, if you do it for IG, there's some level of cropping that you need to do. But these are very good but for the landscape, now I've toggled between this orientation, right? I've changed it here, this now. So I have the orientation dimension now. So it switched it. So if I'm here, I have 1920, that's the width is 1920, the height is 1080. But once I enter this option here, it changes it to 1080 by 1920. So once I click here, it changes it to, once I click this, it changes it to portrait. And this 1080 by 1920 is the best dimension when you are strictly when your majority of your work will just live on IG story or Facebook story, right? Because it uses the portrait. However, if you are designing now, which many times, right, it would go beyond it living in maybe the majority of where you just want your viewer to see your work. You want it to transcend beyond the IG story, beyond the story, but into feed. That's, let's say, the Facebook feed or the Twitter feed or the IG feed. It becomes now necessary for you to use, because if you use this portrait, right, for instance, if you use this portrait version, it won't even sit at all when you put it inside, it won't look nice at all when you put it inside Twitter. So the very good practice now to like find a good soft spot that will work for both of all these other display dimension and platform dimension is to do what is called 1 by 1 ratio. What do I mean by 1 by 1? So I have 1080 here, right? I also still put 1080 again here. 1080. So what this does now is that it puts it in a box. So it's no longer a it's no longer just landscape, that is landscape or orientation, rather is square right now. So the good thing about this way is that even when you put it on WhatsApp status, you put it on WhatsApp feed, or you put it in another feed, the likelihood of it not being cropped is higher, right? It has a tendency of living across every other platform, rather than when you now start doing the landscape or portrait version. Now, once you are done with this, you check this. Once you are done with you check yes. And if you this all this information I'm dishing out, and if you want more understanding on of each, the point is that once you Google it, all I'm saying that you need to Google it. You can have more research. Just Google it. Google social media dimension or online platform dimension. They have plenty dimensions. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to three. Is either it is orientation, that is either it's orientation or landscape. Then the soft spot is just to do once, as far as we are doing graphic design, the soft spot is to do 1080 by 1080, that is square. Then once we are done with that, we click the artboard so that we're able to give us this. With this artboard, it gives us some level of more options to create more and more artboard. Which you also called Canva in Photoshop. Now the artboard is like where the artist draw. So once we check this, it will give us the opportunity to create more and more of it easily. So once we are done, we do create. We click create. So this is it. So you can see now is square. Is square. So the width and height are the same. I will show you another example. Yes, you can see this is like all social media. This is like a template I created to show you all the social media based on their like description. But however, as I said, it all boils down to three options, right? So as you can see, this one is in portrait, but this LinkedIn is very, very, very. I think this is like a LinkedIn cover also, right? Very, very, very long, right? But this very long one is not post. I think it's the cover page and all of that. So this is for Twitter. This is how Twitter be. But at the end of the day, once you put the 1920 by 1080, that's full HD dimension, it will still live properly. It will still stay in Twitter. But this is like strictly based on their dimension guideline that they give. However, if you use full HD, it will work. And this is for IG. And this IG is a box form. That's the width and height are the same. Then this is also for Facebook. So this is like how to so all of this, if you look here, you can see this one. Where all of this is just to give you a sense of how you can create different artboard. It allows you, once you click that, you check that artboard, it allows you, once you are on a particular project, it can allow you to create different and give you different sizes. As you can see, it allows you to create different artboard and give them different sizes, different dimension. So back to this one that we just created now. The first thing I would like you to do before we move further, go to, so that we all be on the same page, we all have the same interface. So you go to Windows, come to Workspace, then you come to Essential, click Essential, that's the default. That's what that comes by default. You click default, right? And once you have that clicked, then also still come here, still come to the window, come to the workspace, then reset Essential so that everything will be properly reset. Yeah, so it has done that. So this is what you get. I believe this is what you get. You should have once you begin your um once you are once this is your first time of starting Photoshop. So, but however, I don't need all this. So I will just collapse all of that one to give me space to work. Even 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 this history, I barely make use of it. So I will just click here and say, and yes, I just yeah. What I did there was I just clicked the yes. I clicked the option of close, so I just closed it. So I just closed that, so it will give us more room to work. So first off, I want us to just get the overall how the overall interface looks like. So with here, as I said, this is our artboard. That's what we are looking at now. So by default, it's just named artboard one. And for you to navigate your way, you come down here. You see this layer. This is okay. This is the first. This is the preview panel where we see what we are what where our work, everything we are doing is inside here, right? And next, I want you to take note is here. Is this place called layers? These are layer panel. These are channel. These are parts. But later we'll look into that. But right now, what you need to know is this place. Now it has created this artboard, so it named it artboard one because we checked artboard when in our option, right? So by default it says artboard one. So everything, let's say if I bring an image now, but once I bring an image, everything is sitting here. We'll do that in a bit. But everything is sitting here. So this place is where you're here. The place I'm hovering my mouse is where it's called the layer panel. Everything you are working on sits here. You can locate them here. So you can either select them directly from here or you come here and select them. I will demonstrate this in a bit when we start importing things. Then once you're working on them, then this is the property. Everything you are working on is showing here. So let's import some files. Let's bring in some files so that you get a better understanding of what I'm explaining here. To import files in Photoshop is either with drag and drop, which is my best practice actually. So this is, let's say, this is the dragging and dropping. So I have my image here now that I want to put there, I want to place there. So I drag it in here, so it stays. So you can see some dimension issue going on here. This was actually created in full HD. That is 1920 by 1080. But my artboard is 1080 by 1080. So, however, but that's not the major thing is for you to just get a glimpse of layers. So you can see since I've brought in here, you can see. So let me bring another one. Let me bring another one. Let me bring another. Let me bring another image in also. So we find this now. So the way the layer system work and the way the layer system work is based on hierarchy. Here, the top one is like when you stack pages, right? When you have paper stacked upon another. The last one we cover the one above, right? We cover the one under. It will make you see the one under, except when you start yes, except maybe when you start to apply some level of transparency. That is where many of us did this while growing up. When we if you apply kerosene on the paper, right? Paper, you start seeing the one under. In the same way, it's likened to when you come here, you see this opacity, except when you reduce it. See, I'm reducing the opacity here. So it's like as if I'm applying kerosene. You know, when you apply kerosene on a particular paper, it allows you to see through it. So it increases, it reduces its opacity. It reduces its opacity, that's opaque state, but it increases its transparency. So by reducing the opacity, I'm increasing the transparency. So you can see through this image now. So you can see through it. But however, by default, every other item or image layer is meant to cover the last one, the one under. So if I reverse this now, this one is covering, you can see it covers this one entirely because of its size. So that's how the layer system works. Now I open this to give you a glimpse of how to in some way we have a more demonstration of how the layer system work, and now the canvas, how the canvas, which is also called the artboard, works in Photoshop. But somewhat I'm like, I think I should give you a glimpse of how I actually open it. It's already made, it's a prepared this thing, Photoshop file. I double clicked the already made Photoshop files to open it, to reopen it here now. And this is what we have here. So with this, you can see with the last one I showed you how the layer system, just I only have two items here, right? How it works. So you can see this one under is covering so. But for the canvas, that's the artboard. That's another word for canvas is also artboard. They've merged both since Photoshop CC. Here you find this one. This is number 3, which I have titled 3 intro to graph intro to graph 2. That should be intro to graph 2 to graphic 2. So you can see. So this is like it's like a house. It's like a board that is housing every other artwork that I have, right? So once I open it, you see like there are other groups of layers. Now, how did I do this? All of this was, PNG images that I have that